Heedfulness is the path to becoming deathless, while heedlessness is the path to death. The heedful do not die, while the heedless are as good as already dead. Clearly understanding this excellence of heedfulness, the wise rejoice it and enjoy the resort of the noble ones. The wise ones, ever meditative and steadfastly persevering, alone experience nirvana, the incomparable freedom from bondage.
Freedom is difficult. The story of Samavati. The Buddha spoke these verses about Samavati, one of the chief queens of Udena, king of Kosambi, while residing at the Gosita monastery near Kosambi. In the city of Badavati, there lived a treasurer called Badavatiya. He had a friend, another treasurer known as Gosaka. Although they never met face to face, they became friends after Gosaka sent a present to Badavatiya after learning about his wealth and age. During that time, an intestinal disease broke out in the house of Badavatiya, which killed all the insects, animals, and gradually people who lived in the house. Therefore, Badavatiya, his wife, and his daughter Sama fled to save their lives and set out on the road to Kosambi to look for Gosaka. They ran out of provisions on their way, and their bodies became exhausted from exposure to wind and sun, and hunger and thirst. After reaching Kosambi with difficulty, they took shelter in a rest house at the gate of the city. Badavatiya told his wife about his friend Gosaka, who spends 1,000 pieces of money daily in alms to the blind, the poor, and other unfortunate people. The next day, after their arrival, while they rested in the rest house to recuperate from the tiring journey, Sama went to get food from the place where Gosaka gave alms. Despite being from a wealthy family, she humbly went to get food for her parents and herself and returned with 3 portions of food. Telling her father that misfortune comes even to prominent families, she persuaded him to eat well without worrying. Unfortunately, the father was unable to digest the food and passed away after he ate the meal. In a similar manner, the mother passed away the following day. On the 3rd morning, feeling extremely hungry and filled with the grief of having lost both her parents, Sama went weeping in the company of beggars to get a portion of food for herself. A householder named Mita, remembering that she had received food for 3 days, said to her that at last she came to know the capacity of her belly. However, after Sama explained how she lost both her parents, one after another in the last 2 days, for whom she was getting the food, he adopted her as his daughter. One day, she heard loud and piercing screams in the dining room where alms were given. She suggested putting a fence around the dining area and installed 2 gates, one for people to enter and the other to exit, allowing only sufficient space for one person to pass through at a time, and also allowing people to receive their alms in peace. After Mita immediately put this idea in place, the dining place for alms was no more chaotic. After this, Sama was known as Samavati. The treasurer Gosaka had long been accustomed to hearing the noises in the dining area and rather liked it as it reminded him of giving alms in his dining hall. But after not hearing any noise at all for 2 to 3 days, he asked the householder Mita if alms were being given to the blind, the poor, and other unfortunate persons. When Mita reported that giving alms has continued, but it is the new arrangement put in place based on Samavati's idea, whom he had adopted, and narrated her story, Gosaka immediately called for Samavati, saying that his friend's daughter is his daughter. Gosaka kissed her on the head, gave her 500 women for her entourage, and adopted her as his daughter. During a festival, when the daughters of respectable families, who usually do not go out, go on foot with their entourage and bathe in the river, King Udena saw Samavati accompanied by her 500 women. After inquiring about Samavati, the king summoned her and her entourage to the royal palace, and soon after, Samavati became his chief consort. The other chief consort, known as Magandiya, who was once rejected by the Buddha, when her father sought the Buddha as a husband for her, found that Samavati was an ardent follower of the Buddha. So, she planned to take her revenge on the Buddha and to harm Samavati and her maids. Magandiya kept on trying to make the king believe that Samavati was trying to kill him. Once, Magandiya inserted a snake into a lute and covered the hole with a bunch of flowers. The snake came out hissing and made the king furious. He commanded Samavati to stand and all her ladies to line up behind her. Then he fitted his bow with an arrow, dipped in poison and shot the arrow. But Samavati and her ladies bore no ill towards the king, and through the power of goodwill, the arrow did not hit the target. The king realized the innocence of Samavati and gave her permission to invite the Buddha and his disciples to the palace for almsgiving and religious discourses. Magandiya, realizing that none of her plots had materialized, made a final, infallible plan. She sent a message to her uncle with complete instructions to go to Samavati's palace and burn down the building with all the women inside. Samavati and her maids of honor, being advanced in spiritual attainment, continued to meditate despite the danger and perished in the fire. The king suspected that this was done at the instigation of Magandiya, but he did not show his feelings at the moment. Instead, the king pretended to be delighted with her and said that he would grant her a great favor and honor all her relatives. On arrival of Magandiya's relatives at the palace, all of them, including Magandiya, were seized and put to death in the palace courtyard. When the Buddha heard these two incidents, he said, "Those who are mindful do not die, but those who are negligent are dead even while living." This teaching of Buddha Shakyamuni highlights that wise beings can see the long-term consequences of karmic actions. Therefore, they do not bear negative thoughts even towards those who wish to harm them. On the contrary, it is the unwise beings that tend to react immediately and get themselves in difficult situations time and again.